All right, let's continue our discussion. We started with barriers. And we discussed that the barrier is a program point where there is all the threads meet before any thread goes ahead. Right? And we also said that global barrier is currently not supported in CUDA, but there is a barrier that is that needs to be explicitly invoked if we want to synchronize across various threads within the thread block. Warp threads are anyway implicitly synchronized. Right? So let's understand it pictorially, and rather I'm going to ask you to uh, identify where issues will occur. This is simple. I mean, you have done it in CUDA before. I had lost connection for some time. Which part was last audible?
You said you had
Before,
done. You have
sorry,
done it.
what?
You said you have
Oh,
done
okay,
it before.
okay. Good. All right, thanks. So we have this D kernel which has a vector and a vector size as parameters. Vector is allocated on the using CUDA malloc, let's say. And then I'm doing vector of ID equal to ID. So this is all fully parallel operation, which I'm calling as S1. Then there is sync threads, right? So that's our barrier. And then ID less than vector size minus 1. This should have been before vector of ID assignment S1 also. But anyway, so vector of ID plus 1 not equal to ID plus 1. Right? So that is the statement that I am checking. And if that is not the case, then I'm printing sync threads does not work. Right? Why am I printing this particular sentence? Why doesn't sync threads work if vector of ID plus 1 not equal to ID plus 1?
We settled an S1 explicitly, right? So it should.
Sorry, I didn't get that shit.
So we set it. We set vector ID equals to ID in S1. So that's why. So it should be
But
equal
this,
if sync threads works correctly.
correct. Okay, fine. So that's correct. So we expect that all the vector of ID assignments in S1 finish before any of the conditional checks at S2, which is vector ID plus 1 not equal to ID plus 1. This check does not start for any thread until vector of ID equal to ID finishes, right, for all the threads. Now, only if that doesn't happen, that means that there is some problem with the sync threads. And as you can imagine, there will be a problem in this case. And that problem will be, I mean, where will,
It's
for
only
which two,
restricted to thread blocks, right?
that is correct. So for
Sir,
which two threads the issue will occur?
sir, so if two threads are of different thread blocks, we can't guarantee. So, like,
Correct.
if they're on the boundary of two thread blocks.
Correct. So the last thread of one thread block is going to check ID plus 1, which is the next thread, which might be in a different thread block. So assuming 1024 threads in a thread block, 1023th thread is going to check for 1024th threads vector of ID plus 1. And therefore, since that is a different thread block, there is no guarantee that these two thread blocks are in sync. And therefore, the other thread block might have finished earlier, in which case you are lucky, but it might not have finished execution, in which case you will see that vector of ID plus 1 is not equal to ID plus 1, assuming that this is all initialized to 0. And we expect that that is going to happen. Although it doesn't happen, that doesn't mean that the program is correct. It just means that for this execution, that particular condition was not satisfied, but that doesn't mean that the program is correct. This program is wrong because of this synchronization requirement. So pictorially, it looks like this. We have this time going down, increasing in the south direction. And then S1, there is a barrier, and then S2, where I'm talking about a single thread block. So these SIs are being executed by individual threads. And then the other thread block is also going to look something like this. But there is no synchronization across these two thread blocks. There is synchronization only within a thread block because of sync threads, and therefore there is a possibility that S1 and S2 might execute in parallel, and therefore this printf might get executed. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. So there is another important point which we usually do not discuss, but this is something which is a little crucial from the overall perspective, and in the discussion it always comes up, and therefore I have made these slides since last year a little more explicit instead of leaving it only to the discussion. So we all know that sync threads is a control mechanism. What that means is that we are talking about different threads coming to the same program point. Right? This has nothing to do with respect to synchronization with respect to the data. What that means is that it doesn't say anything about specifically that if I write something to a memory location before the barrier, before sync threads, whether its effect is going to be visible outside the barrier, that is after the barrier. So think about it this way, that there is this S1, right, being executed by one thread, and then there is and just after that there is S2. So this is being executed by each thread. S1 let's say writes to some memory location. Now and S2 is reading from the same vector to which S1 is writing, but it could be reading from multiple memory locations. Now if there are two threads, and one thread is writing in S1 and the second thread is reading in S2 from the memory location which is being written by the first thread, there is no guarantee that the second thread will see the value that was written by the first thread or vice versa. Now this particular guarantee is given by something called as memory consistency. So we say that most of the parallel processing systems, they have a weak consistency model, which means that immediately the effects are not visible because of caching, etc. Even if you use S1, volatile in S1, there is no guarantee that the other thread will see it because the other thread might happen a little later. But if it not later, might happen a little earlier. But if the other thread happens later and S1 has written the value earlier, does that guarantee that S2 will, the other thread will see the value? This needs to be guaranteed in some cases, even if there is no data synchronization between them. So control synchronization is about the control flow, whereas data synchronization is about if I write something, is that visible to the other thread? With volatiles, this case is guaranteed, right? So that is the meaning of volatile, that if S1 is writing to a volatile memory location and S2 is reading from the same memory location as a volatile variable, then it doesn't get cached, and therefore if S2 happens after S1 for two different threads, then S2 is guaranteed to see S1's effect. So this volatile ensures, but there is a small caveat. In practice, there is something more that is required to get that working. which I'm going to talk about. Okay, so I hope at least this concept is clear, that there is control synchronization, which means that I'm going to coordinate the control flow across different threads until we reach a particular program point. Something else cannot happen, right? Similarly, data synchronization means that I'm writing to some memory location and its effect should be visible to the other thread. Control synchronization need not necessarily involve data synchronization, although usually it does. What that means is that if there is a barrier or some synchronization here, right? So there is some control synchronization between S1 and S2. Then that means that, I mean, typically this is what happens in practice, is that S1's effect are visible to the other threads at S2 after S1 is executed, that is after you reach the barrier. So that does mean that there is some data synchronization happening, although sync threads is usually considered only for the control synchronization, right? So that's what we have been looking at so far. But it does give data synchronization guarantees also. That's what I have mentioned here, which means that all the writes from the threads within the same thread block are going to have visibility, which means that they are all going to be visible to all the threads within the same thread block after the barrier. Right? So that is what we should, I mean, it might look very natural, but I think as we go along, things will become clearer. This effect that I am going to write to some memory location and its effect should be visible to other threads. This is ensured using something called as a memory fence operation. Right? So memory fence meaning that I am writing to some memory location and it might get cached, that is okay. But if I have a sync threads, then that sync threads internally has a memory fence operation, which ensures that if you have some local data, some invalidations in the local cache, all of those are going to be pushed to either the last level cache or some cache which is going to be common across all the threads. So since sync threads is at the thread block level, there is L1 available. So as long as you push it to L1, it is going to be accessible to the other threads. If that L1 is partitioned for each thread, then it is going to go to L2 and so on. Okay, so sync threads internally has this memory fence, and because of which we have data synchronization also because of the sync threads. Let me erase this. Okay. If at all you require to perform data synchronization alone, right? Not the control synchronization. So this is sync threads is C plus D, control plus data. If you want to just perform data synchronization, then you have a primitive called thread fence block, which you can use to synchronize across the threads within the thread block using only data. What that means is that if you have written to a memory location and you have thread fence block, if the other thread if the other threads within the thread block have not executed the next instruction, then they are guaranteed to see the effect of this write. If they have already executed, then there is no question, right? So only the remaining threads are guaranteed to see the writes. There is no control synchronization, and therefore threads are free to execute in any order. It's just that whichever thread comes later will see the effect of this particular thread's writing. Right? And then if you want to data synchronize across all the threads on the GPU, there is also a thread fence available. Again, there is no control synchronization, there is no global barrier as we discussed. But if there are threads which have executed before this thread, so this thread is writing to a memory location, then there is a thread fence. If there are threads which have executed before, those are not going to see the effect. Those may not see the effect of this particular write, But all the other threads which are yet to be executing these instructions, maybe later after this thread fence, those are guaranteed to see the effect of this particular instruction. Is this too confusing, or if there are, yeah,
So,
go
so
ahead.
the thread fence block instruction. So since there is only one common L1 for the entire thread block, do we really need this explicit instruction, because each instruction is anyways writing to the L1 and it's accessible to all of them, right?
That is correct, and may not happen. One thing is that you might just leave it into the registers for optimization purpose. So it might not get returned to L1. But even within L1, I don't know how the, in the sense, the sharing is happening, in the sense that if it is partitioned across threads, then it will not move the data across different threads. So I don't know if that is the reason, but definitely we know that if it is in the registers, then it is not going to be
Okay, sir.
available to there.
Okay, sir, got it.
Any
Sir,
other
can
question?
you please, sir, can you please repeat thread fence block once more?
Yeah. Thread fence block essentially means that you have S1, then thread fence block, and then S2. S1 is writing to a memory location, S2 is reading from some memory location. So as far as the same thread is concerned, if I am writing in S1, I don't need that fence. I can just read in S2 the value that I had written in S1, and it will be available. And if the same code is being executed by different threads, they'll see their own values. But because of this caching effect, it's possible that in S1, if I'm writing to a memory location, and in S2, I am reading from that memory location in a different thread, there is no guarantee that they will be able to, the S2, although it happens later in time, will see the effect of S1 in a different thread. And therefore, if we want to ensure this, then we require a thread fence, which is essentially a memory fence, which ensures that the effect of S1 is going to be visible to S2 if S2 happens after S1 in time. Right? So this is what is ensured by the thread fence. It so happens that we usually do not require these mechanisms because these are implicit into sync threads. So sync threads has two parts. One is control synchronization, all the threads meet there. The second part is this data synchronization, which means that any statements which you have before the sync threads, all the statements effects are going to be visible to any statement after the barrier, after the sync threads. And therefore there is data synchronization implicit as well as control synchronization, and therefore we are able to visualize it, argue about the code correctness easily when we are dealing with sync threads. Nikam has a question. When will we need only thread fence block instead of sync threads? So this you can require if you are dealing with a very low level programming where you are actually coordinating, maybe creating some primitives for synchronization, maybe a new primitive for synchronization. In typical practical cases, you will not encounter this, right? So this is more like if you are writing some very system specific program, maybe as part of embedded systems or so, then only, or you are doing something specifically for the GPU, that is you are on the library implementer side of the GPU, which is being used by the users. In that case, you will require this thread fence block. For example, in none of my students' PhD and MS thesis, they have required any thread fence usage of thread fence block ever. Right? So since sync threads is fast enough, we usually don't need to go beyond that. But what is, I mean, the reason why I'm mentioning all of this is because you should know what happens inside sync threads. And there is a reason why that is required, because many students faced issues when they tried to implement a locking mechanism. And the way the locking mechanism gets implemented typically, from whatever knowledge we have, is that we declare a volatile variable, right? And then we want to update it from one thread, and that locking variable should be visible to the other thread. It so happens that if you use atomics internally involve data synchronization, and therefore your memory fence is thread fence is anyway going to get executed. So that is okay. But unfortunately, the thread fence, but if you want to implement locking using only the control synchronization, that is using a while loop, while not of flag, etc., where flag is volatile, it so happens that the when you are writing to the particular memory, that is flag, from one thread, its effect might not be visible immediately. Not immediately, its effect might not be visible to the other thread. So then there are two things happening here. One thread is writing, another thread is reading, right? The same memory location. The effect of the writer thread is possibly not getting pushed beyond the cache such that it is accessible to the reader thread, or this is getting pushed, but the reader thread is not able to see that. To make sure that the writer thread writes to the memory location properly, we need to insert a thread fence just after this. So after you write to the common memory location, insert a thread fence so that it is visible to the other blocks. If you are writing to shared memory, then you insert thread fence block. After this, it so happens that the other thread is still not able to see it. To make sure that it reads the value, not the cached value, but from main memory, then you declare the variable as volatile, and that ensures that the two-way connection is established. So this is what is the practical issue that people have, that students face while implementing the lock, and therefore all this mechanism needs to be explained, that there is thread fence required after the write, and there is volatile required for reading. Although volatile technically says that for both reading and writing, you are going to have you are going to write to the common memory and also read from common memory. At least my students have found out that volatile works for the read in this lock implementation, but it might not work for the write, and therefore that thread fence is explicitly required. Okay, Prasun is saying sync threads, thread fence block, and the other one, all to data synchronization for threads in a block. I'll give you a complete picture of all these different mechanisms, and we'll discuss this. Sync threads involves both control and data synchronization. Thread fence block involves only data synchronization. Thread fence is only data synchronization, but across all the GPU threads. Atomics involves only data synchronization. There is no control synchronization. Yes, thread fence is for all the blocks. In any data synchronization primitive, is the data written by each thread flushed to global memory directly, or is it written to the closest memory that is accessible to all threads that are being synchronized over? In typical data synchronization primitives, these are optimized to look at with which I am synchronizing, and therefore we have these different variations also, like thread fence and thread fence block, or sync threads and global barrier, which is not there, but you can implement that. So it gets optimized to the first common level. So that is correct. For instance, if we call thread fence block, since we only synchronize across threads in a block, then we may not need to flush to the main memory. That is correct. It could be enough if we just write it to L1, but in case we synchronize across all threads on GPU, we will need to flush to memory. That is correct. That is correct. So that's how it gets done. In some cases, it might still get flushed to main memory for whatever reasons. Maybe the cache is getting full, or there could be other reasons why you want to push. Maybe there are too many flushes happening, in which case you would like to still move it to the main memory. So that is okay. So so in some cases you might still see the effect of a write before, without having a thread fence, but then that there is no guarantee. Okay, good. Any other questions? All right. So yeah, as I was saying, okay, so in general, it so happens that fence, that is a memory fence that we are talking about. Although the name is thread fence, it is called as memory fence in the parallel programming literature. In CUDA, it is called as a thread fence. A fence does not ensure that other threads will read the updated value, right? And that happens because of caching at the other thread. I am using a fence after the write, but the other thread might not be reading the value, and that it might just be reading the value of this using caching, and the other thread needs to use the volatile. So that's what I was explaining in the lock implementation. Although it so happens that in CUDA, fence applies to both read and write, which means that if you have a write followed by a fence and another thread wants to read, you can as well give thread fence instruction and then the read, and that will ensure that you are reading the value correctly. So this is what is the documented meaning. So what we have observed is that if you have after the write you need a thread fence, before the read you either have that mark that data as volatile, or you have a thread fence just before the read, and that will ensure if the read happens later or if the thread fence happens later, then you are going to read the value. It's also possible, since there is no control synchronization, if the other thread comes earlier, then even despite the thread fence, it might just read the old value. That is okay. That we are not saying anything about. But if it would have been reading the cached value, that can be removed. I mean, it can be ensured that it reads from the common memory only if it is either volatile or you mark it, you have a thread fence before the read. So these are, in some sense, synchronization of the data across different threads. Right? A little involved, but definitely you should know, because you might get into this if you try to experiment in a fine-grained manner with data with this synchronization. Yeah. So this okay. This part. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sir, in the last slide, I have a doubt. Sir, I'm a little confused about this read and write part. So when we are saying that in general, a fence does not ensure the other thread will read the updated value. So if I have a thread S1 and I have a write, and after that I have a thread fence, and there is another thread S2 which is performing a read. We can't guarantee that it will perform the read after the write because there's no control synchronization. But if there is a case that it is reading after the write, if I know at runtime that this is happening after the write, then I can guarantee, right, that this is reading the correct value.
No, I mean without thread fence, no. It can still read
If
the
there is
cache
thread
value.
fence, if there is thread fence after the write in S1.
No, still, yeah. So there is write, there is thread fence in the writer thread, and in the reader thread there is no thread fence and there is reading. The second thread is not guaranteed to read the updated value.
Sir,
it can still
then
read the
what is
cached
the
value.
point of having thread fence in the write? So like just thread fence in the writer thread won't be of any use to us, right?
That is correct. So the expectation is that the coordination is amongst threads, and therefore the coordination needs to be ensured by all the involved parties. Think about it this way. I'll just give you one very crude example. It might not look, I mean, it might look a little funny, but it can happen. For example, if I am updating the counter variable that we have, and I'm using atomic increment in n-1 threads, right? And it all is working fine. And then there is one thread which does not cooperate. And what it does is that it updates the counter value without using atomics. Now, there is no guarantee that this update that the other thread, nth thread, is doing, that is not going to get synchronized with the other threads, and therefore it might create problems for both the parties. So you cannot guarantee what the protocol is going to work, how the protocol is going to work. So when we are dealing with a cooperative synchronization is usually almost always requires cooperation across all the parties. And in this case also, it is going to be required by the other thread in general. Right? It so happens that in some cases, just because of the caching effects, you might see that, okay, I am getting the update value, but there is no such guarantee.
Sir, but in general, when we are talking about, let's suppose we are talking about multi-core CPUs.
Right.
So in that case, if I'm performing a write and I have a thread fence makes sure that this write goes to the main memory.
Correct.
And when it is going to the main memory, our cache consistency model will ensure that that write will invalidate any other cache value present on any other CPU, right? So if there is another thread executing on that, we won't have caching issues, right?
The semantic meaning of a memory fence is that it is going to ensure that the other thread sees the value in a parallel program only if the other thread also has a memory fence. So it's possible that the caching can play a role. This might look a little unnatural, but this is mentioned because of the performance reasons, that the other threads let them be allowed to read the cached values only if you require proper coordination channel from one thread to another, then let both the threads use memory threads.
Okay, sir. So that's how we've defined it semantically. So instead of thread fence, if I use something of a volatile data, if thread 1 is writing to volatile, that time I don't need anything of this sort, because the read will, like, semantically volatile ensures that another read on another thread will be able to see the value.
No. So it so happens that volatile in general ensures that the whatever so in general volatile is expected to let me put it this way, that it is expected that it internally involves memory fence for that data. Right? So okay, let's think about it this way, that memory fence is about all the writes which have happened so far. So if I'm writing to memory location M1, M2, M3, and then I have a memory fence, it is going to ensure that all the previous writes until the previous memory fence, all of those are being written to some common memory location, common memory. Volatile is a finer version of that, which just says that I am going to apply it to a particular variable and all uses of that variable. So memory fence is that way more like aggregate operation, plus it's a lazy mechanism. You can, even if I write to memory location 1,000 number of times, I might not do a memory fence. Let me write it 1,000 number of times and then I can do memory fence. Whereas volatile will ensure that every write out of these 1,000 is going to go to the main memory or the common memory.
Sir, so I'm still a little confused because the caching issue. So if I'm writing to the main memory, it is going to be visible to everything else, right? So what is the reason for having another memory fence?
No, that's what. So if you have a volatile, that is going to be applicable only for that particular data item. So we declare it as volatile int flag, right? So it is going to be applied only for that flag's read and write. But I don't want to make, I might have a complete array, not array, but there could be large number of variables, which I can not mark as volatile and just have a memory fence, and that will ensure that all those are returned to the common memory.
Yeah, so like once they are written, that time we said that we need another memory fence operation before any subsequent read in any other thread.
That is correct.
Saying why do we need that? Because that is in a way redundant, because we will anyways be able to see whatever write has already happened to the global memory. That's what I am.
No. Because of this cache consistency, it can't be ensured as a memory consistency. It can't be ensured that you are reading because see, the two threads are independent. you might have a memory fence in one thread. There is no memory fence in the other thread. So the other thread, I mean, the execution is, it doesn't even know what is happening around the world until somebody tells it, go fetch the data directly from memory. So these are considered to be totally in MIMD fashion, and therefore you can't guarantee this.
Yes, sir. So once it is written to the main memory, that time the cache consistency model will ensure that the other like it will invalidate any other value present on any other core's cache, right? That time it will, when it tries to access, it won't be able to see the old value because it has validated. It will be forced to go to the main memory.
That is correct, but it is going to require time for this invalidation to happen. I'm saying that there is no such guarantee that it is, I mean, so when I'm trying to write it to the main memory, it's going to require me some 500 cycles. During these 500 cycles, a lot of things can happen in the other cores. And there is no guarantee that they are not going to read any data for this from this memory location until then.
Oh, okay.
So
So is it like, so if I've written in those 500 cycles, if I'm performing a read, it does not guarantee that I'm getting the value from the main memory. So that's why we can't be sure. But if I put a thread fence, that time I can ensure that I'm getting the value from the main memory. And
No. You will get the value from main memory, but whether it will be the one that you wrote from the other thread, that is not guaranteed because there is no control synchronization.
Yeah, but I'll be sure that it is something which is coming from the main memory.
Yes. Main memory meaning common memory. It could be L2, L3, L4.
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Any other concerns here? Feel free to ask. I mean, although this it's a little more involved, but nevertheless, it's worth knowing what's happening inside.
Sir.
Yeah, Niranjan.
Yeah. So, what continuing on what Venkat was saying. So, you said that once it's written, like because of caching, some other thread might not see the write that was done by some other thread. Yeah. But so that means that let's say that thread 1 executes thread fence, and but this second thread still has the value that was there in that memory itself still in its cache. So it's going to fetch it from the cache until for some reason the cache value needs to be swapped out to main memory, in which case the next read will cause a cache miss and hence it will be forced to read from main memory. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, that is correct. But that cache miss, so the invalidations that are being done because of the cache consistency model, those from one core are going to propagate to the other core after a while. And there is no guarantee that there is going to be this coordination going to happen instantly.
Okay, but that is the reason we say that this cache value that's reflected, in some sense, that we need some way to tell thread number 2 that you need to go to main memory, either because of a cache miss or some other instruction explicitly.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Karthik, you had a question?
Yes, sir. So what do you mean when you're saying thread fence for a particular thread? When we're writing thread fence, it is for the whole kernel, right? So we write it in a kernel, so that ensures that it is for the whole block. So
that is correct.
So what do we mean by thread fence for a thread? So you're saying that we need a thread fence for the write operation and thread fence for the read. But if we just write one thread fence, that will ensure both, right?
Yes, that is correct. So here, I mean, when I said in general, that does mean that it is applicable to the CPU also. So where the threads are totally independent. But from the, I mean, we have to always see the thread fence from the perspective of individual threads. So you look at the code of individual thread, which might be different, and then there is a thread fence being executed. It might be executed by a subset of threads. It might be inside a conditional or something. Then whatever are the data items within that thread, right, which are being written to because of this thread fence, just before the thread fence, those are the ones which are going to be in effect. If there is some write after the thread fence, that write might happen locally to the cache. So and the guarantee with respect to the effect of that, all those writes before the thread fence, all those writes, whether it is to the whole block or to the all the threads in the GPU, that needs to be ensured using, let's say, thread fence block or thread fence. So the effect is going to be visible. That doesn't mean that they will see it. For them to see it, there is something more required on the reader side, which is essentially that volatile or another memory fence on the other side. So from
Okay,
the perspective, if you are talking about like the same code is being executed by all the threads, right? Let's say, then the thread fence, you can talk about that all the threads are writing some memory locations and they are doing a broadcast in some sense, that all the threads have this thread fence and therefore they are doing a broadcast of whatever they have written to all the other threads in the GPU. And then if there is but that might happen at different times because there is no barrier. And then when they read, whatever writes have happened from the other threads before this read, those are likely to be visible to me because I also have this thread fence available, which means that I'm going to write to as well as I'm going to load the data. I'm going to flush my cache also, which means that I'm also going to read the later part from whatever other threads have succeeded in pushing to main memory so far. But different threads will see different amount of data because of the way the invalidations are happening. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So in this classwork, so this first part we have done probably multiple number of times, that finding the maximum over a set of elements and let thread 0 print the value in the same kernel. The way we write it, there needs to be a barrier after the max is computed by other threads, because maybe some other thread might be computing it, whereas thread 0 is going to print it. So there is some coordination required between them, and we don't know which thread is going to compute the maximum. Right? Let's do the other one. Right? So each thread is given some amount of work. Right? Like we had different threads are pushing different number of elements in our last classwork. Think about it, that they have different amount of work given to them. Right? And well, what we want to find out is that what is the average work per thread. How do you do that? I want to sum up this work of ID across all threads. That gives me the total amount of work divided by the number of threads is going to give me the average work per thread. If my work as a thread is above this average or too much above this average by some constant k, then that means that I am highly loaded, and there will be some threads which are not loaded as much. So I am going to push the extra work to a work list. That pushing to a work list is essentially what we did in the previous classwork. That can be called as work donation. Right? So I am donating the work to a donation box, and that is going to help me improve the load balance, so that the faster threads or threads which have smaller amount of work, they will finish their work fast. After that, they can empty the donation box. That is, they are going to look at the donation box, and if there is work, then they are going to take that work and so on, which means that any thread can work over any work item. Right? So please think about this second classwork, and we let's discuss if there are any performance implications or synchronization implications that you think are necessary or confusing. If the question is not clear to anybody, please feel free to inquire. Oh, and by the way, yesterday there was this question of if that underscore device variable, if that is global, what happens in the multi GPU part. So I didn't know about this, but interestingly, it so happens that it creates multiple copies of that variable when you are using it for multiple GPUs, which means that you can just access it arbitrarily in any GPU. So in case of multi GPU program, you can set a particular device on which you want to run your code. So if you have 3 GPUs, they are numbered as 0, 1, 2 in some order. So you can do CUDA set device 0, CUDA set device 1, CUDA set device 2, and that is going to ensure that the rest of the code runs on that particular device. So if you have the global variable as let's say some counter, then that counter is going to get replicated. They are not going to be in sync, right? So that is going to be your job. But when you access it, it is going to access the particular variable on the GPU. So this I didn't know. So thanks for that question. Okay, so any suggestions on what all is required in this? How many of you were able to find the average? I mean, you might not have written the code, but at least if you have thought about how the code is going to be. Average is okay. Before calculating the average, we'll need a barrier, I guess. Yes, that is correct. So you compute the sum of all the values, and just before the barrier, sorry, just before reading the value of sum. Why? Because you are going to do sum divided by n, where n is, let's say, the amount of so sum divided by n requires reading of sum, whereas in parallel you are writing to the sum, in most probably using an atomic instruction. So we do require a barrier between atomic and the reading of the value. So that is correct, Prasoon. Aditya has written a code, atomic add ampersand sum, that is correct. Then there is a barrier, sync threads. If id equals 0, average work equal to sum by n, that is also correct. So although in this case average work is a local variable, right? It might be helpful for other threads to have access to average work, right? In which case it might be helpful if you want to put it into shared memory. And then let thread 0 write it. But if thread 0 writes it, then you need a barrier again after average work, because each thread wants to check work of ID with average work. So that is one way. Alternatively, you can let every thread compute its average work. That is also okay, since the computation is small, sum divided by n. So we can actually remove that condition, id equals 0. Let every thread have a local variable average work and let them compute it. So since the computation is small, it is okay. And if work of id greater than average work plus k, correct, then atomic add work list work of id minus average work. Yeah, work list, maybe work list counter or something. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, and after we have added to the work list counter, then you can freely add those that amount of work to that work list. Great, that was very good, Aditya. Rigved is saying atomic add ampersand sum work, correct. Sync threads, if work of id plus k is greater than sum divided by n, this all can be local, that seems okay. C equal to atomic increment ampersand work list of C extra work list of id minus equal to extra work of id minus equal to extra work. Sure. That, yeah, that is on the right lines, correct. Good job, Rigved also. Any questions on this one? So what implicitly you guys have done is that, I don't know if I have specified this here, is that you have done this work in a thread block, right? So you have this sync threads and then you are doing this work per thread block. I don't know, I think I have not mentioned it anywhere, but maybe you thought about it implicitly. So be careful. I was actually referring to, by default, if I don't specify anything, that it can be done across all the threads, in which case the sync threads will not help, right? It has to be across all the threads. But it's good because the donation within a thread block turns out to be much, much faster. In fact, that work list that we are talking about, you could actually maintain a donation box within the shared memory itself, right? And this atomic add onto the sum, it's a good idea since you are dealing with the sum only within a thread block. Make sum as a shared variable, and that also improves the cost of atomic when you are dealing with shared memory rather than the global memory, right? So although the syntax remains the same, but the cost is much lower. So that will also be a good idea. All right, so we'll stop here. Any questions? Okay, so tomorrow we'll have a doubt session completely. I will not teach anything new, and whatever we have covered so far